What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the college football show that matters. That's right, you're tuning into the first and long college football show. I am your co-host, Marcus. That is your. Oh wait, he's not here yet. Yeah, Mason's running late, so no big deal. We're just going to go ahead and get started, and he's going to be here in just a few minutes. So no big deal there, Mason. If you're watching, take your time. We got this, and what we're going to do today is we're going to break down all the big games coming up for Week 7. We've got all the numbers here that we're going to take a look at, and we're going to give picks against the spread. Now, we're doing things a little bit different this week. Typically, what we do is we will give our best bets whenever we do our previews and our predictions. And we're going to do it a little bit different this week, as I said. And we will we're going to do a betting show on Fridays. So on Fridays, we're going to give out our best bets of the week. And those are the ones that we are actually putting money on each week, and ones that we feel good about. If you're watching live or you are watching the replay, I hope that you'll give us a thumbs up. I hope that you will subscribe, come back and hang out with us. As you can probably hear in my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I don't care because it's college football season, man, and I'm here to talk college football. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, give me a thumbs up. That really helps our video get out there and gives us a chance to reach some new people that also love college football a lot. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into some of these games, and we'll kind of talk about each one here. The lineup this week is Oregon at Washington, Texas A&M at Tennessee, Auburn at LSU, USC at Notre Dame, Miami at North Carolina, Mizzou at Kentucky, and UCLA at Oregon State. Not quite as blue blood heavy on the big matchups this week, I wouldn't say, but it is headlined by that Oregon-Washington matchup that everybody is just dying to see. So without further ado, let's talk about that one. And whenever Mason gets on, we'll get his picks on this. Just kind of starting off, talking about these two teams here. Washington is a high-flying offense, right? Their two wide receivers, McMillan and Odunze, are definite NFL prospects. And whenever they get to the NFL, if anybody that's watching this plays fantasy football, these are guys that you want to pick up as long as they got somebody that can get them the ball, because especially Rome Odunze, because, man, this guy is a bad dude and one of the best wide receivers in the country. I can't say the best with Marvin Harrison Jr. over there at Ohio State. I think he would probably have something to say about that. But with that being said, the Mason's texting me right now, so he's coming. But with that being said, whenever we look at the stats here in a minute, I know generally what they're going to say, and the defense doesn't look quite as good on paper for Washington as it does for Oregon. But honestly, if we go back and we look at the schedules of these two teams and who they've played, honestly, I think Washington might be a little bit more of the tested team so far at this point. And not to mention, this game is going to be played at home. Excuse me while I get something to drink. I'm trying to hang in there. My voice is barely hanging in there. But this game is played in Seattle. And this is one of the biggest matchups in Seattle in a long time. And I think that it's going to be a raucous environment. And I'm really, really looking forward to see it. Let's throw some of those stats up on the screen, and we'll take a look at those and see what we can decipher from that. Let me take this down. But there we go. I'm a one-man wrecking crew over here. So as you can see, Oregon and Washington's offenses are I mean, really, really similar as far as they're both just really high up there, highly ranked. Um, Lots of yards, lots of points. Second in scoring for Oregon, third in scoring for Washington. This is the biggest difference that I see right here as far as on the offense goes. Um, Washington is just not as reliant on running the ball as Oregon. But the passing offenses, I mean, 10th is it's not like that's not too shabby, but look how many yards per game that is less than Washington. Um, I think I hear Mason. Hey, Mason, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Mark. You hear me all right?
Yeah, it's all right. You sound like you might be talking through a cup and a piece of yarn, but that's all right. We can hear you fine. Well, we
That's
were
just
just
that's just me, man.
oh, okay. All right. Good deal. Well, it might be my voice. I don't know. I have decent enough internet connection, but my voice is what's breaking up, not the connection. Um, so I'm over here drinking some green tea with honey. Trying to get my voice right. Um, but we were breaking down this Oregon at Washington game, and we were just kind of going through some of the stats here, and I'll continue to do that. Um, the biggest differences on this stat sheet here is the defenses. Washington's defense doesn't come anywhere close to the rankings and the numbers that Oregon has put up this year. Um, Honestly, and that's what I think it's going to come down to. Both of these teams are plus in the turnover margin. I think somebody's going to have to get some turnovers in this game to get an edge because um, I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball on each other. I don't think Oregon just because these numbers say that their defense is better that they're going to play better. This Saturday whenever they obviously haven't played an offense as good as Washington's, not anywhere close. So these numbers don't reflect playing a team like that, and nor does Washington's for that matter, I guess. But I'm thinking Washington's going to be able to do their thing, and Oregon's going to be able to do their thing on offense. So honestly, I like the over in this game, honestly, but whoever can get a turnover or two is going to give themselves a really, really good shot to win this thing. What do you think about this one, Mason? The Bo Nix and the Michael Penix Heisman game.
Well, I agree with you on the over for sure. I think that's probably the safest play. And it looks like I'm getting our stats pulled up here because it looks like you've got yesterday's number. So believe it or not, that over under of 60.5 has shot up to 67 now. So if you're going to play the over, you got to play it at 67 instead of
No, thank
60
you.
and a half. And that's just in one day. So when I played it out and kind of crunched my numbers, I got 64 is what I ended up with. And that's
Are
just
you
basically
gonna?
taking.
Can you share those or on yours, or do I need to go
Yeah,
pull that
I'm
up?
I'm getting it pulled up as I'm talking. Not doing a very good job of multitasking here, but
Well, that's all right.
anyways, yeah. So
That's all right. Well, look, you know, with Washington being at home, I think that gives them a clear advantage, and that's probably reflected here in the point spread. But I 3 points, that's a tough number. I could see it getting down to maybe 2.5, and I would love to take Washington at 2.5 there. But if you really feel convicted about Oregon in this game, last I checked, pretty good money line odds there. So pretty good use of your dollar and pretty good return there if you really feel good about Oregon winning the game. But for me personally, as far as my lean on the spread, I liked the over until it got up to 67. I think I'm good on that. I think I'll pass. But I'm seriously considering betting the Washington 3. But I may sit back and watch that a little bit because I feel like casual fans, people who don't watch out on the West Coast football games, I think they know a lot more about Oregon than they do about Washington. And I know that sounds kind of on the surface, but that's what these betting numbers are about. It's about Vegas getting even bets on each side, and that's what makes the lines move. So, I just feel like people just recognize the O and the Nike and all that stuff. And I don't think most people have even watched a Washington game this year, but I'm here to tell you right now that they have one of those, like, I'm not going to say Alabama offenses from a couple years ago, but they have one of those offenses that's just like, you can just throw all the defensive stats out the window, dude, because they're just so damn fast off the line, and they're just so freaky, man.
Well, and you know how high I've been on Oregon all season. I mean,
yeah.
And you've kind of been shaded towards Washington. It's kind of a first and long matchup. If
you ain't getting my damn Huskies now, I'm telling you right now, not at home, Mason, not at home.
Oh, but
not so fast.
All right, Lee, calm down. Go take your medicine.
Yeah, I feel like I do need some medicine.
But
I'm taking medicine. I'm drinking a margarita on what is tonight? What is today? Tuesday? I'm drinking a margarita on a Tuesday. Like,
hey, what else are you gonna do when there's no football on?
There is nothing else to do other than come talk about football and drink a margarita.
There you go. Yeah. But outside of what you talked about, Oregon has been a little bit better on third down. I kind of want to see if that has a play on this game. It's nothing too drastic necessarily, but on both sides of the ball there, Oregon has shut down the third down conversions, and they've won more, than Washington. Now, part of that too is that Washington and their receivers have been able to score long touchdowns, so they don't get into third down very often. I think they're going to have a few more opportunities this week against Oregon to show what they can do on third down. I'd like to see if that has a play at all. When I break this game down, Mark, if this game were played 10 times, both teams would win 5 times.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. It's going to be a banger, man. It's going to be a really good game. And obviously I'm very excited for it, but when I look at it, I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I honestly think that the score is going to be in the 70s, total. So I still like the overplay. Definitely, I'd take over before I took under. In this play.
You like it at 67?
I still do. Even though my numbers,
because honestly, now I'm thinking about betting the freaking under.
Yeah, well, that's the issue to me is I don't like betting with the public, but my numbers tell me that this. So mathematically, my numbers tell me this is going to be about a 64-point, total game. But then I look at it and I say, man, you can kind of take, like you said, take what you know about each team and what they've scored in the past and throw it out the window because it's different, man. These two offenses are different, and they're able to score on any defense. I'm pretty confident. I don't think Oregon's defense is as good as this would show. I don't necessarily think that. I think that's been, they've benefited from playing relatively ineffective offenses. And Washington, on the other hand, I feel like their offense is as advertised, and their defense is probably about what they are. And it's not great. It's kind of a Pac-12 defense, but that offense is so explosive. I don't know that anybody's going to keep them under 40 points. I mean, if Oregon does, I think it's a real testament to them and what they're able to do. But yeah, I think on paper, I think Oregon should be the winner here. Just based on what you're seeing and what I'm seeing, everything that we're looking at tells me Oregon should win this game. But
yeah,
realistically, my eyes tell me that Washington should be able to pull this game out at home. I think it's a pick 'em, and I think that they're rightfully, on a neutral side, I think it's a pick 'em. So I think rightfully Vegas has got Washington as a 3-point favorite. I think that they should be able to win this game. But I like the even though I think that Washington should be able to win the game, I'm going to kind of fade my own pick, and I'm going to say that Oregon pulls it out late with like a late interception or something like that as Washington's drive. And I think it's going to be one of those type of games. Definitely one to tune into if you haven't been watching and paying attention to the Pac-12 yet. But I like the overplay, and I think that Oregon pulls it off and is able to upset Washington. But I'm not betting the money line on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to watch the line on this one, and I'll see how I feel on Friday. And I may, if that line keeps going up over 67, I'm definitely betting the under. But I just want to bring something up. So the last time, if my calculations are correct, the last time Washington lost a football game was October 8th of last year. They lost to Arizona State on the road. And I believe that was on a Friday game. But since then, they've really turned things around, including a win over Oregon. They haven't lost a game since then. And at home, they've scored 56, 27, 43, 59. There was another one right here in the 50s, 45. I mean, I don't know. I think it's whoever makes the first big mistake is going to end up losing this game. You can't lose a possession in this game, I don't think. Nobody's shutting anybody down in this one. I would be very, very, very surprised. Now, let's move on to our Texas A&M at Tennessee.
It's set up on my screen, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to kind of ease us into this one for a second. So, so Max Johnson is going to have to go on the road. He's going to have to play in Knoxville, night game. They're doing the checker kneeling thing this weekend. I've been to Neyland Stadium when they've done the checkered thing, and hey, everybody gets into it. So it's definitely going to be a good atmosphere. And I went a few years ago when Tennessee was in the toilet. So, and it was loud then. So I think this is going to be a hectic environment. And I honestly started off this week knowing this matchup was coming. I had already made up my mind that I thought Texas A&M was going to get the win here. But the more I think about it, I just wonder if Tennessee can't follow the same blueprint that Alabama followed last week and try to get this one done. And not to mention, Texas A&M was at home last week. This week they're in Knoxville. I feel like the air's out of the tires at this point. They just took their second loss. I don't know. I feel like this is a very pivotal game for Texas A&M, and I feel like I say it all the time, but I think this is like a must-win for Texas A&M. But I don't know if everybody's bought in at this point. It's tough. I don't know that I'll actually bet anything on this, but this is a weird matchup. I just feel like we never see Texas A&M play Tennessee. This just even on the matchup sheet, it just doesn't even look right to me. What's your read on this? I just don't know, man. I mean, one thing I do know, if Tennessee, this is what I think it comes down to, and then I'll let you have the floor. But Tennessee, if they can't run the ball, they're going to have a really hard time winning this football game. And Texas A&M has a really good run defense, probably the best front four in the SEC. And they held Alabama to 30 yards last week, the team that told us they were going to do the murder ball all offseason, which was a joke, but they thought they were going to do that. Whoever can win that battle in the trenches, I think, is probably going to walk away with this victory. I think I'm leaning more Tennessee minus 3.5 than I am the other way. So what are your thoughts on this? And we can pull up the stats and take a look.
Yeah, I like where I still like Texas A&M in this. I think that your initial gut reaction is kind of where I'm still at. Now, this may change come Friday. This is one of those, I do think it's going to be a really close game, kind of a low-scoring affair. Tennessee's defense has actually been really good this year.
I'm looking at
And
those numbers. They were way better this year than they were
way
last year.
better. I mean, top
Way
25 or close in all categories. Even tackles for a loss. They're getting to the quarterback. To me, like you mentioned, Tennessee wants to run the football. They're 6.18 yards per attempt. Oregon, the team we just reviewed, is actually in first, which was a little bit surprising to me considering how good Bo Nix has been. But that what Tennessee wants to do, and we've talked about it all season, they want to spread the field, spread you out on defense, and they want to run it up the middle. And it creates opportunities, but I don't think that's going to work against Texas A&M because of what you mentioned in that front four. You're not going to spread the defensive line out, So if you don't beat them up front, then you're really not going to have a chance. Now, Tennessee's offensive line has come to play this season. They've only allowed 15 tackles for a loss, which is good for third. And they've obviously been run blocking really well. They've got the second best rush offense in the country. So I think that's really where the test is going to be, is Tennessee's offensive line against Texas A&M's defensive line. I think that's, if you're talking about matchups, that's the one to watch in this game, and that's going to tell you kind of where to put your money if you're trying to live bet or anything like that. Like I said, I just think that's where the game's going to be won and lost. Texas A&M is first in tackles for a loss with 57, and Tennessee is third in tackles for a loss allowed with 15. So it's good on good right there, and I'm anxious to see who comes out winning that matchup battle. I do think that this is a bad matchup for Tennessee. I think that Alabama gave Tennessee the blueprint for how to beat Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Tennessee is capable of following that blueprint. And the blueprint is beat them over the top, go deep, intermediate to deep balls, which is exactly what Milton struggles with at Tennessee, is intermediate to deep balls. He's just not very accurate. Of course, he's got a huge arm. Everybody knows that. But he hasn't been very accurate. They don't really have the receivers. Brew McCoy is out for the season. So I think that the matchups are not really in Tennessee's favor. And I think that, that's really going to be what decides it. Watching the Texas A&M Alabama game last week, there were some bad play calls and some bad coaching, from the Texas A&M staff in some ways. But I thought that they played a pretty good game, overall. They were in it, for most of the game. And I just feel like, Alabama came with a strong game plan and they were able to execute. But even though they were able to execute, I don't know that Tennessee can, I guess. So that really, to me, is going to be a struggle for Tennessee. I think you got two pretty good defenses, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. So at 55.5, I think I would still take the under. To me, this is a 27-20 type game, or something like that, 27-23. I like Texas A&M to kind of win it outright today. I'm not betting it today, but I'm gonna sit on my feelings here for a little bit, and we'll see come Friday how I feel. But I may still be feeling good on Texas A&M and ready to take them to win this outright on the money line. But it's going to be a good game, and I think it is going to be a really close one.
Yeah, well, I think you talked me into the under. So I the more and more I sit and think, and that's why we decided that we're going to do our betting show on Friday, everybody. We're going to have our Between the Lines segment on Friday. I mentioned it at the top of the show. We need to have a little bit more time to be able to think about these lines before we bet them. So These are our early in the week reactions, and things do happen that kind of change your thought process. And the more you look at numbers and watch, film and things like that. But I like the defensive struggle here. This is not casual fans. I think still think that Tennessee is like throwing the ball all over the place, and even last year they were pretty balanced, honestly. But this year they're pretty heavy run. Even more so. So their success is going to be based on their ability to run the ball on offense. So I think that at least lowers their part of the score and can probably make that under convert. Let's move on to Auburn at LSU. Is this a night game? Do you know?
It is.
Okay.
Night game in Baton Rouge.
Okay. Well, that does change things a bit. But, I mean, the LSU is such an enigma that I wouldn't bet this damn line with y'all's money. Okay? I don't know what to think about LSU. I'll tell you this. If I'm picking this one, I'm taking Auburn plus 11. Just based on the fact that number's in 11, I think Auburn can probably lose by 10. And there's a pretty good chance of that. And Auburn's not a great team. We're going to pull up the numbers, but they'll surprise you on defense a little bit. They're a little more stout on defense than what you think. Definitely better defense than Ole Miss. So I would compare them with Missouri's defense. So I expect this one to be in the 40s. I'll look at the over-under. Maybe I'll be entertained by that, but I just wouldn't bet this one. Let's pull up the numbers and give me your take on this. What are you thinking?
Well, I think you're exactly right in that, I'm also taking Auburn in the points today at least. I think 11's a lot. I like them at 10. I feel like, you'd even get a push at 9.5. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be betting that one, but But you mentioned it. Auburn's had a really solid defense. They're only allowing 18.2 points per game. And have done some things really well. I don't think that many teams have gotten more out of less with their defense than Auburn in the SEC at least. They're coming off of a bye, so Auburn's had all week to prepare for LSU, and we saw what Auburn did against Georgia offensively. And they saw a hole schematically in Georgia, and they executed. And what they did was they rushed Peyton Thorne. He had I think more than half of their rushing yards came from Peyton Thorne. And I just think with an extra week to prepare for LSU and this LSU defense that is awful. I mean, they might be worse than Vanderbilt.
Which hole are they going to shoot for on this defense?
Take your pick. I mean, it's really a good opportunity for Auburn on offense to put up some stats. So I think that, and look, LSU's offense is outstanding. They're one of the best in the SEC. So
very, very good.
I'm not sitting here telling you that they can't outscore Auburn by 30 because they absolutely have the potential to. And I did like what I saw out of LSU's defense in the second half of that game against Missouri. Only gave up 2 touchdowns in the second half. And they seemed to kind of settle down, against a fairly strong Missouri offense, which we'll get into later. But, I still like Auburn and Hugh Freeze. And Hugh Freeze really he's still searching for that signature win. So I think that he's got this one circled. And it certainly would be an outstanding win for him against LSU in Baton Rouge at night. Spoiling their season, and it could happen. I mean, I don't know that. I would think that LSU gets up for this game, a home game at night, and with everything still to play for, they haven't faced Alabama yet, so technically they could still win the SEC. So they should be motivated to play, but you really never know. So I'm I'm kind of with you. I like Auburn in the points. I think LSU does win the game. They're just a little bit too explosive on offense. But I think that this is a good test for Auburn and Hugh Freeze. I think that they have a strong outing and something that they can build on, for the future.
Yeah. Well, look, and if you're going to pick a game that would be like an upset, a pretty big upset, for something to be an upset, first of all, it's got to be more than a touchdown spread, in my opinion, because, 3-point spread, that's not really an upset. I mean, either team could, one play changes the difference in 3 points. I think Auburn stands one of the best chances of upsetting the opponent this weekend. LSU hasn't been the same at home at night as they were 2019 and prior. And here, I guess, here's the key to the game. I think for me, those rushing stats that LSU has got there, a lot of that has got to do with Jaden Daniels and his ability to escape the pocket, take off. The only team that I've seen Auburn play this year that had a quarterback that could run decent was UMass, and it was Tyson Fumachan. Mm-hmm. And if anybody remembers Fumachan, he was from Clemson, and then he went somewhere else. I can't remember where it was. Maybe Georgia Tech it was, and then ended up at UMass. And he had a pretty successful, considering it was UMass, and UMass is really bad, considering this defense and everything, he had some success on the ground. And I think he got sacked a couple times, which even tainted the numbers, but averaged like 5 yards a carry or something in that game on like 8 to 10 rushes. So whenever I was trying to look at this game, I was trying to figure out if Auburn was going to have the ability to be able to limit Daniels to, less than 100, rushing yards, really less than 75 would be, I guess, ideal. I don't know that they've got the ability to do that, but if they want to pull an upset, they're going to have, if they could keep Jaden Daniels at like 50 yards rushing, then I think they stand a really good chance because, man, he just accounts for so much of this LSU offense.
Well, and I don't know that Brian Kelly is going to run him much because, I mean, he's been taking some blows all season long. More than any
if
other
we didn't get hit with copyright, I would play that hit from that Ole Miss game every single show.
Yeah,
I would. Did you that when he fumbled?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, dude, he got rocked. Yeah, I know it. He's been getting hit hard. He's slight built, man. Yeah, and these boys in the SEC are like refrigerators running at you, bro.
Well, he was pretty hurt in that Missouri game, and was able to come back out. I mean, he had to come out, and Nussmeier came in for a couple of plays and finished the drive out. I think it ended in a field goal, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know that the game plan for them is to have him running much anymore because they absolutely cannot afford to lose him. He is their offense, and their offense is their team, and therefore he is their team. That's just kind of how it works. That's philosophy 101 for you. If then, but going back to Auburn, I think that seeing what Georgia did against Kentucky had to give that team a little bit of a boost to say, guys, we were one score away from winning this game, or at least tying. Going into overtime, against the number one team in the country. And we know that they're the bona fide number one team in the country now. So why not us? Why can't we go and beat LSU? That's got to play into this game, I think, a little bit. Now, if LSU comes out and hangs 14 and it's 14-0 after the first quarter, I could see some people kind of getting a little unmotivated after that. But if they're able to hang around and it's a 3-point game at halftime and I kind of like Auburn to stick it out and play well. So more I think about it, the more I like it, honestly.
Yeah. I like him at +11. I feel pretty good about that. I like that number. Let's keep it moving on down the line, and let's go to probably what will be the most watched game of the week, either Oregon at Washington or this one right here. Oh, not that one. Definitely not that one. USC at Notre Dame. Definitely not Auburn and LSU. Get back. Go on now. USC at Notre Dame. That's the one I was talking about. Notre Dame, 2.5-point favorite. Does this line surprise you? When I first saw it, my reaction, I was a little bit shocked that this is where the betting started.
Yeah.
Is it still 2.5? I guess it is.
As of a few hours ago, at least, whenever I updated these, so this line hadn't moved. I think the over under was at 60.5, and it went up to 63, if I'm not mistaken. So people are thinking there will be more points scored, which really leads me to believe it's going to be kind of a low scoring game. I do agree with you that it did shock me that Notre Dame is favored at all, and to me, it's kind of like UCLA last week where they were favored against Washington State, and we were both kind of like, that seems a little bit odd. But then, as I kind of played through it, it made a little bit more sense. Where if you looked at UCLA prior to the game against Utah, then you would have had them winning against Washington State. And to me, if I looked at Notre Dame versus USC, but Notre Dame prior to losing to Louisville, I would have had Notre Dame winning this game because of their defense. I think that they're able to get just a few more stops than USC is, and maybe able to win the game. I don't know. That would have been my thought before seeing them against Louisville, right? But now I'm kind of like, man, I don't know. That was pretty recent, and not a whole lot can change, in a week. So in UCLA's case, they had a bye week in between.
Yeah. What gives me a little bit of hope is Marcus Freeman last year got this team back up off the deck after they got beat by Marshall and got beat by – there was another team that they had no business messing around with. I can't remember what it was, but Marcus Freeman had no problem getting them up off the deck and finishing the year pretty damn strong and getting the momentum going into this year. I think he'll be able to get these guys going. And look, I was talking earlier this week with somebody. What is the best thing for a sputtering offense? A USC defense.
Yep.
I mean, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Mm-hmm.
It is just what the doctor ordered. A big old pill bottle full of USC defenders.
Yep.
And Estime is going to plow through these guys like a bowling ball through pins. It's going to be that part's going to be fun to watch. This Notre Dame offensive line is going to road grade USC's defensive line, and I think this line is correct. The more I've sat and thought about it, I think this line is correct. Not to say that USC cannot win this game, because obviously they can. And if it gets to a point where it's just a straight-up shootout, I don't think Notre Dame stands a chance. But if Notre Dame can get some stops, then I think that they're going to be in pretty good shape here. Let's pull up the stats, and let's take a closer look-see here. Mason, do you want to take us through there, since you probably got it full screen?
Yes, sir.
I'm having to watch the stream lab.
Yeah, I understand. Well, to me, whenever I was breaking down these numbers, I saw what I thought I would see, right? USC's really the best offense in college football statistically. They're the number one scoring offense, third in passing offense, sixth in rushing offense. They do both things really well. Only 46th in third down conversion. I thought that was kind of surprising. They're less than 43% on third down, which is a little bit surprising, and pretty good. Actually outstanding. Considering the questions that we had at offensive line, what they've been able to do is pretty remarkable. They've only allowed 23 tackles for a loss. Now a lot of that is Caleb Williams, scatting around in the backfield and making guys miss and doing what he does. He's a freaking Houdini, guys. So
Yeah.
that's to be expected in some ways, but this is a really good offense, right? Now, really good offenses tend to score on any defense, right? That's kind of how college football has worked for a while. But I still really think that Notre Dame's defense is good enough to get a few stops. And one area that they're really good in is pass defense. They're, as you see on your screen, they're third in the country in pass defense, averaging less than 150 yards per game. So that's a really interesting matchup to watch. They've got really good cornerbacks and safeties. I'm anxious to see what Caleb Williams is able to do if he carves them up, or if they're able to come up big on third down, and get some stops. Um, I to me, if that's the matchup to watch, and that's going to tell us whether or not they win this game. And but I do like this matchup, and kind of like you said, I kind of like the way Notre Dame matches up with USC as a whole. I actually had it in my notes, like you said. This is exactly what Notre Dame's offense needs, is to face a USC defense. So maybe Sam Hartman is able to go for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Estime's got 110 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground or something like that, and they find a way to win it. But I don't know. I like the pick of Notre Dame and the points. I have no idea where the over and under is going to hit. That could go a few different ways, in my opinion. So, give me Notre Dame and the points. Obviously, Notre Dame would win in that case, and I think it is a close game. I think it's a 4-quarter game, and everything that it was supposed to be before Louisville. I wish that Notre Dame was able to beat Louisville, because that would just make this game mean so much more. But without anything to play for, too, I mean, is Notre Dame going to be prepared? I think they still will be. So now they get to play the spoiler for the rest of the season, and or at least against USC is probably the only team that they get a chance to spoil for the rest of the season. But yeah, I like Notre Dame's chances to win this one.
Yeah, I do too. I've been USC's been cruising for a bruising, man. They've been they've been playing with their food, and this will be a pretty good environment at Notre Dame. I think it will be, and this offense for USC was really discombobulated last week. It's the worst I had seen them, and it doesn't seem like this is a team. Some teams seem like they're getting better right now, and some teams, I think, started off really hot, and they're not exactly working their way up. So I don't know. I like Notre Dame in the 2.5 here. This line seems to just be staying right where it's at. So I'd imagine there's probably even money on each side. What do you think about the over/under here, 63? I just don't know about that. I feel like I hate to take an under in a USC game, but
yeah,
I almost feel like an under might be the play here.
I kind of like that. Like I said, the line is moving up right now, so if
Probably
you
want
want
to wait on that one.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to wait until it's up to 65 or 66 would be a good one.
I'm gonna put it on the notes, and we'll revisit this Friday.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it opened at 60.5. So that was just yesterday, or I guess it may have opened lower than that, but yesterday it was at 60.5. So, but I think that the matchup there with the passing defense for Notre Dame against USC's receivers, and essentially against Caleb Williams in some ways, is going to dictate the score. And I think that they're going to win a few third down opportunities and force some punts, and it's going to keep the score down. And then I think Notre Dame's offense, they're not good enough to score on every drive, so they're gonna take their L's on some drives, and I could see it. And then still though, when I look at that played out in my head, I'm still seeing a 35 to 38 type of game, which would put it above the 63. So I don't know. It's really tough to bet under against USC. But
I just
I
feel
think
like
that
Notre
that's the
Dame's going
play.
to be able to sustain the run good enough to limit
Hmm.
possessions against USC, unlike
Yeah,
really anybody's done this year.
that's true. That's true.
Unless you just run slap through them and USC don't tackle nobody. So I guess that could go two ways. And this USC team is horrible at tackling. Horrible. It's so bad. So many missed tackles. Um,
Yep.
Unbelievable, ungodly amounts of missed tackles. It'll make your head hurt. Um, all right, let's get through these last three here, and let's try to keep this thing about an hour here. Miami at North Carolina. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I really like North Carolina and what I saw last week. That's why I think Vegas is tricking everyone, and I think they're about to clean up on this thing. I'm taking Miami plus 3.5 here.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you what, this is the same. I feel like this is the same song and dance we saw last week with Georgia, Kentucky. Kentucky kills Florida, right? Just absolutely murders them, they're still running. Ray Davis Sr. is still running down here, laps around the Episcopal Church down here. Okay. Georgia struggles with Auburn, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's upset time. It's upset time. I know damn well Vegas cleaned up on everybody betting on Kentucky. I know they cleaned up. I know damn well they did. It even had me as a Georgia fan wanting to take Kentucky to cover, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not getting fooled this week. And I didn't bet on that last week. I bet the under. I lost miserably on that as well. So that's neither here nor there. I'm taking Miami plus 3.5 because I think there's a whole lot of negative thoughts going on about Miami, but this team ain't about to quit after one loss. That's not how this works. And those guys on that sideline of Miami were definitely bought in. Whether there was 17 people in the stands or not, those guys on the sidelines were bought in. They were crying grown man crocodile tears after that game. Okay? A lot of emotion. They've got something to prove this week. Miami can move the ball whenever things are going well. I don't know what the hell that was last weekend, but that's college football. We say that all the time. We don't know what the hell that was. In this case right here, I'm taking Miami plus 3.5. I'm not buying into the hype on one and the lows on the other. And this is before I even get into the numbers, that's how I'm feeling. What's your thoughts, and take us into the numbers?
So to me, so in a way, like my gut tells me to go in the same direction as you, but knowing what I know and seeing the numbers that I've seen, I just can't. And honestly, my gut also tells me that UNC just their offense came to play last week, and they did put up a lot, and I think that they were kind of missing that. That offense, and Drake May wasn't really looking like the best quarterback in the country or the second best quarterback in the country. And now after this 1 week, everybody's like, yeah, he's the best in the country. I say everybody, some people would suggest that he's better than Caleb Williams and things like that. And I'm not here to argue for or against Drake May, but what I can tell you is that this offense has come around. So when I look at it, and you mentioned Vegas and maybe they're kind of telling people, to vote for UNC, or excuse me, to bet on UNC, and hoping that Miami ends up winning. But to me, I think that all that they've done is change the 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 number here, and moved it down to 3.5, because I think it would have been a little bit higher, but we saw Miami, do what they did to Texas A&M. So I don't know that Vegas is necessarily going to clean house on this one. I think that I think that people still are pretty high on Miami, and to me, I looked at the Georgia Tech game and said, "Wow, first of all, terrible coaching. Secondly, they never should have been in that position in the first place. Um, against Georgia Tech. It shouldn't have come down to a final possession regardless. So to me, that tells me that they didn't plan for Georgia Tech, right? They planned for North Carolina. So to your defense, I think that Miami is going to come and play. But if you were to tell me that a team that got beat by Georgia Tech is, it's only going to lose by 3 points or 4 points, I tell you you're crazy. But then you kind of look at it, and you kind of see what they were before that loss, and it's a pretty competitive team, and so with all that being said, I do like North Carolina in this game. I think that they are going to win at home and cover. I wish that this number would come down to a 3-point, them being a 3-point favorite, and that would make me feel a little bit more confident. But I think that they're going to be able to get it done. I don't know that Miami matches up with UNC very well. I know that they've got a couple of really good, at least one potential first-round cornerback and another NFL guy, first-round safety, and then another NFL safety as well in the backfield. But I think that they're a little bit weak on the ends there at cornerback, and I think that Drake May is going to be able to exploit that. And then also over the middle, and now with Ches Walker coming in, UNC just added another weapon, and I think that they'll get him a little bit more involved this week. So I look to see Drake May kind of carve up this defense pretty well. And the UNC defense is not very good. They're gonna take their L's as well. I wouldn't call you crazy if you wanted to bet the over at 57. I think that'd be a pretty good play. But to me, I'm going to take the home field advantage here. I'm going to go with North Carolina to win and cover the 3.5. But I'm kind of holding out and waiting to see if this number drops to 3. If more people are kind of thinking like you, or kind of see how it goes later in the week.
Yeah, that was a miserable, just disgusting, horrible, irresponsible loss that we saw last week by Miami. It was wrong on several different levels, and you can go back and look at what happened and everything, and look at our videos from earlier in the week, and we kind of break that down. And I won't keep vamping on that, but horrible coaching decisions, and but I don't think it affects this team's demeanor quite yet. And I think they might be in what some people would call wounded animal mode. They've got one loss here. They don't want another ACC loss at North Carolina here. And North Carolina did look very good last week. They sure did. So it wouldn't surprise me a bit to see them pull this victory out. But I think I'm going to take Miami plus 3.5. Actually take it as a best bet later this week. We'll see where the number goes, and we'll go from there. Let's dive into Mizzou at Kentucky. Mizzou, fresh off a loss from LSU, gave up 1 million points and yards and all that. Well, I wouldn't say 1 million, only like 500,000. And then Kentucky did the same thing. So both of these teams are kind of got put in the blender last week. Kentucky really got put in the blender, and Georgia has this inept ability to beat teams twice after they play them. They'll beat them the first time, and then the next week they'll beat themselves because they're so beat up. And I've seen Georgia ass whoopings, and that was one of them last week. They put a physical toll on Kentucky. Pretty much took them for everything they were worth. And I am interested to see how Kentucky battled. There's some hurt feelings, and since we're on the subject of Kentucky, did you see the comments that Mark Stoops made on his, I guess, radio show or something like that? Basically, Georgia paid for their whole team, and if you don't like losing to a bunch of 5 stars that make a bunch of money, then you get your checkbook out, and you go buy players for us, and then you can complain, basically. Which Mark Stoops, and we'll get to the game here in just a second, but Mark Stoops has, I guess, kind of earned the right as far as Kentucky goes. I mean, he's like a tenured, barring scandal or something off the field. This guy is pretty much tenured at Kentucky. I mean, I don't think you could ever get rid of him. He's the winningest coach ever in Kentucky history. So I think he can say whatever he wants. So I'll preface what I'm saying here, but with that, but he is totally wrong. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
I mean, look, everybody wants everything to be fair and there to be parity and blah, blah, blah. It's never been fair. College football's never been fair. It's always been the haves and have-nots, okay? And Kentucky, for a long time, has been a have-not. And Mark Stoops knew that when he took the job, okay? And Georgia had better athletes than Kentucky when he took the job. So it doesn't have anything to do with NIL. It has to do with Kentucky and Georgia. And, I mean, it's been 15 years since Kentucky's beat Georgia. So how does it have to do with NIL?
Yeah.
I mean, NIL's only been around for how long? So, and before that, we all know a lot of these teams cheating. What was stopping Kentucky from cheating, just like all the other teams? Nothing.
Like they do in basketball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. So, and we, that'd be like me coming out, after Georgia loses to Kentucky in basketball and being like, yeah, well, it's not really fair because they got better players.
There you go.
Well, damn straight they got better players, and they're proud of them players, man. They coached them players up. They went and got them out of high school. They got them to come to that god-awful state of Kentucky and play basketball for them. You know what I mean? So I kid Kentucky fans, but you get my point. So Mark Stoops got a little testy about somebody asking him about that, and I understand. I'm a man. I have, I get redheaded every once in a while about something. So there's nothing wrong with that, but he is dead wrong on that, and that's not going to be an excuse. If Mark Stoops was going 4-8, ain't nobody hearing no excuses about somebody having more money or more resources or whatever. But he goes 8-4 pretty much every year, so he's safe as far as Kentucky's concerned.
He has a contract built around that. If he wins 8 games, he gets a raise, or he gets an extension is what it is, or maybe both.
And he should.
He's not going anywhere. With 8
Kentucky
wins,
is doing it the right way. Florida needs to take a page out of Kentucky's book. Tennessee's just now figuring it out. You can't switch coaches every 2 years and expect success. It's not going to happen. Not at this day and age. It's not going to happen. Yeah, you might have a rare situation every once in a while where you got a Sonny Dykes or you've got a lightning in a bottle like you do in Colorado right now. But that's so rare, man. You can't bank on that, and there ain't no talent recruiter that can promise you that. So that's kind of a long segue into through the intro and into this game breakdown, but that was something everybody was talking about this week, and I thought it was funny. I didn't get mad. I don't care. Georgia does pay for some awesome players, and they should do it more often. I wish they'd pay for a really good wide receiver. That doesn't. As a Georgia fan, I don't give a crap. I wish Georgia would spend $30 million. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to win championships, and I know Kentucky fans would feel the same way if people were doing it for them.
Stoops is smart for doing it, and you've seen really every coach do it. Saban did it at one point, when after Texas A&M and Jimbo, they had their whole scandal where he said Jimbo bought all these players. It's the same thing. Mark Stoops is trying to do it to Georgia, but he's not at Alabama, so he's not going to have the boosters who are just going to write those checks for his football team. But I think it was a smart strategic move, but nonetheless, let's get into this breakdown, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Give us the numbers, man. What'd you find on these two?
So on these two, I mean, statistically, Kentucky's a better team, right? They're favored. They're going to be at home. It's a night game in Kentucky. They're a 2.5-point favorite. it kind of makes sense. And then you break the numbers down. Kentucky's pretty solid. They've only really faced Georgia as a tough team. We saw what they did to Florida, and they kind of exposed Florida um, in the swamp.
Yes.
So I don't think that was a very very good win, honestly. And
That's still funny to me.
yeah, it was pretty funny. It was very laughable. But I don't want to put too much stock into the numbers on this because my eyes tell me that Missouri is a much better offense than Kentucky, and we saw what it took to beat Missouri, what it took for LSU to beat Missouri, and that was a 400. Jaden Daniels accounted for 400 total yards against Missouri, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Devin Leary is not that guy. He might account for 200, and that'd be a pretty good day. 250 be a really good day for him. And so now, granted, Kentucky does have a much better defense than LSU, so I'll give you that. Maybe it balances out, but I go back to the quarterback play. Devin Leary missed a bunch of guys against Georgia, and Georgia really didn't look that great on defense when you look at it. Devin Leary just missed a lot of guys, so that they had a chance to extend some drives and score a few more points. That weren't going to win the game or anything like that, but it could have looked a little bit different. But Devin Leary wasn't able to do that, and what a fall from grace for him. But to me, I think that Missouri has a really strong identity. We keep using that word with Missouri and the Tigers and what they do on offense. They've got a strong identity behind Luther Burden and behind Brady Cook. And in that passing game, I think that they're going to have another strong outing and be able to win this game and become not just the best SEC East team west of the Mississippi, but the second best SEC team in the East Division. So, and you see they're at +8 on the turnover margin. I could see them getting another couple of turnovers in this game too against Kentucky's offense. But yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. Obviously, I'm leaning towards Missouri to cover and win outright. I'm not comfortable at 52.5 points, but I'm not comfortable betting one way or another on that. I think that Missouri's just a little bit too gritty, and maybe it's the thicker kicker with another 61-yard field goal that wins it, or something dramatic like that. But I'm not gonna bet against the thicker kicker. Not this week at least.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of what I think are pretty good rushing defenses here, and Kentucky obviously looks pretty susceptible to the pass, right? So I see kind of a clash of styles here. I actually like the home team here, and I think Kentucky's going to rebound this week, and I think they get this win. This is still Missouri, and last week kind of showed me that a little bit. I know they want to be at the next level, man, but this is still Missouri, and I think Missouri is where Kentucky was just a couple of years ago, and I think Missouri is finally headed in the right direction. But I think it's going to be too much stress on that passing game in this situation, and I expect the bounce of ball to not continue to go Missouri's way all year. That +8 turnover margin is crazy. I could see a little bit of snap back into reality, Eminem style. So let's keep it moving, and let's go to our last big game breakdown of the week. We've got the UCLA Bruins at the Oregon State Beavers. Oregon State is a 4-point favorite. I don't know what the hell to think about this one. The attrition has already began in the Pac-12, right? You've got a few losses spread around, all taken from different teams so far. Nobody's lost to the same team in conference twice yet. So everybody's like, well, maybe Cal and them have, but I'm speaking on the contenders, the 5 or 6 Pac-12 teams that we consider to be contenders. I really am just so torn on this game right here. I've seen I feel like the best and the worst of UCLA at this point in the season, and I feel like the ceiling is a lot higher than obviously those bad moments that we've seen, but Oregon State just seems way more consistent to me, man. They're playing at home. I'm taking Oregon State and the -4. I think they can win this thing by a touchdown. DJU just went off last week. I like Oregon State to do the thing here. Will you read through these numbers and tell us what you found on these and what you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of with you on this one. I like the home team at -4. To me, this is and we can go over the numbers, but to me, I saw two teams last week that improved, and who are both trending up. And UCLA doing it more so on defense, whereas Oregon State's doing it more so on offense. So it's really a clash of two really good units, in the offensive unit of Oregon State versus the defensive unit of UCLA. So I'm just going to give that advantage to the home team in a night game at home. I think it is kind of a pick 'em on a neutral site. I'd still give Oregon State a slight edge. So to me, I'm perfectly aligned with Vegas on this one. I think it's -4 is the perfect number for this. I still like Oregon State to cover. But yeah, I mean, when you break it down, UCLA's got the 8th best scoring defense in the country, 2nd best rushing defense in the country, 24th best pass defense in the country. They're 12th in tackles for a loss, top 30 in every category. Opponent red zone conversion is 3rd at 58.33%. That's outstanding. That's a really good defense. There are plenty of guys on this defensive line that are going to be playing on Sundays, like 4 probably on the defensive line that are going to be playing on Sundays. So it's really stout up front. Oregon State has relied really heavily on their rushing attack up until the past 2 weeks, really, and mainly last week. You saw DJU throw some dimes last week. I mean, he had some great balls going out of bounds. He was all over the place, and that was really important to see heading into this week in particular, because if you are going to beat UCLA in their defense in one area, it's going to be passing the football. They will struggle if they try to run the football. They're going to struggle. And if DJ's not on, I mean, they're going to be in trouble. But I like him to be able to work through this and to get the win over there in Beavertown.
So especially being at home. I really like that they're at home here. This is a Saturday game, or is it a Friday matchup?
It's Saturday. It's the last game. It'd be I think 10:30 our time. So
that makes me feel good.
Yep.
Yeah, because if it's Friday games are weird. Almost always take the underdog in Friday games, especially road dogs.
Another interesting stat I didn't go over, but Oregon State is 100% in their red zone conversion. They're one of, I think, three teams in the country that have scored every red zone drive left, in college football right now. So they've been really effective there.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
And up against UCLA's 3rd, at 58.33%, on opposing red zone conversion. So that's an interesting sort of like weird number, but not really a matchup. But one of those have to give, right, in this game. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who wins that.
Yep. Well, that's how we see it, folks, for all of the key matchups for this week. We will be back on Friday. We're going to be doing our Between the Lines segment. And if you don't know what that is, then you need to come tune in on Friday and come check that out with us. We're going to be giving our best bets for the weekend on the lines, the over-unders, all that good stuff. What time are we doing that? Are we doing that Friday night, Mason?
Friday night, probably about 8 o'clock.
Friday night, 8 o'clock. Book it. I will put a little, upcoming show reminder out for everybody, and we can all come together on Friday, get those last-minute bets in before another great weekend of college football, because I know it will be in Week 7. Everybody who's tuned into the show, thank you so much for tuning in. I know a couple of you have left out, and if you're watching the rerun of this, I hope that you will please just go ahead and give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. That helps our show out greatly. We're not going to make a dime off of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And look, come be on the show like Swither17 here. USC will get beat by 10 this week. Well, Swither, if you can see the future, tell us the rest of the games. I had an Oklahoma fan comment on our preseason breakdown of Oklahoma, and they said, "Yeah, I bet you don't think we're going 8-4 now, do you?" And I could just see him, with his sports shades on, working out in the oil field, and I told him, I said, "No, I don't. Actually, I don't see them going 8-4 now, obviously, but I couldn't tell the future." So,
I wonder how long he's been holding on to that.
That's what I'm wondering, because that video was made months ago, and for you to dive that deep on our list of shows and stuff, I mean, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. That's amazing. For you to go back and find that bad boy. This is an Oklahoma fan that we're talking about here that is going to the search bar on YouTube, and they're looking up preseason people who said something that didn't come to fruition about Oklahoma, and they're just busting their ass, And I think it's hilarious because, that's probably something I would have done as a Georgia fan in 2017, whenever Georgia goes to the national championship. And I may or may not have done some stuff like that back in 2017. So I feel you, dog. I'm with you. And I'm just glad that you found your way to the First and Long college football show. I hope everybody has a great night. I know I did and enjoyed talking some college football with you guys, as I always do. For the First and Long college football show, I'm Marcus. That's Mason. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you on Friday at 8 o'clock.
Thanks. Have a good night.